So I've had some crazy timeline shifts and have you heard of the Mandela effect? Yeah. So basically, Mandela effect is when, you shift to another timeline. And so sometimes when you go to other timelines, you may go to a timeline where certain things have changed. I remember one thing that I was affected in my Mandela effect is I used to use this spray called Febreze, and it was spelled with two E's in the middle. And years later, I remember looking it up, and I was just like, they changed the name. It's only got one E now. It's Febreze instead of Febreze. And even when you ask them, I think I asked them on their Facebook page when did they change the name or something. Either I asked them or somebody, and they said that it's always been Febreze. And I was like, Then some other things like whiteout. This little white little stuff you put over if you wrote with an ink pen and you made a mistake and you can't erase it, but you can use whiteout on top and write over it. Well, now it's spelled W-I-T-E out when it was spelled W-H-I-T-E out. So there's a lot of these changes that are happening, right? And it happens so much that people, they call it a misremembering, and people believe that we somehow have some type of illusion. No, we didn't misremember anything, okay? We're shifting through timelines and lots of things change. People change, things change, but we're making subtle shifts that we're not seeing massive changes, right? So a couple of letters changed, right? Or a monocle changed on a Monopoly guy, or Forrest Gump no longer says life was like a box of chocolates. He says life is like about one of the two, right? So there's little things like that, right? But what I'm talking about is some major changes that are unbelievable. So I had a few experiences, and I've been afraid to share them because when I try to tell the people I know, I feel like even though they know they might be a spiritual person and they might be open, I feel like they don't really believe me. And so I haven't wanted to share this, right? But I had a commenter that I was talking to, and I told him or her that, I had some crazy that I'm afraid. And they said, share it. So I'm going to share it. Okay. All right. So I had about 3 really crazy timeline shifts recently, right? So a few years ago, I met this girl. So me and my husband were getting deep into this Stephen Greer alien content, and it was really fun. He showed me Stephen Greer's movie, and it really awakened my mind to this whole alien thing, disclosure thing, right? And he started an app called CE5, and I joined this app called CE5. It was like where you're supposed to meet with people local around you, and you connect to aliens together. So it was just something we were doing for fun. So I joined the app. There was actually people in my area. So we joined the app, and we hadn't met up, and then this girl messaged me, right? And her name, her screen name was Silky Susan. So we're going to go, before I tell you, I'm just going to go call her Silky Susan for this conversation. So I met her, and she's excited about this alien journey, and we start talking. We essentially become friends. I invite her. I tell her about my YouTube channel. I was like, okay, if you're open to aliens, you might be open to my content. So I tell her, check out, Zen Mommy on YouTube. So she checks it out, and she really likes my content. And we continue to speak on phone from there. So one day she tells me, I got a new dog. And she sends me a picture of her and a dog. In this picture, she is a Caucasian woman with straight blonde hair, and she looked really young, like early 20s. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is how she looks like. We didn't get a chance to fit. She lived actually a few minutes from my house. I ended up moving out of state, but me and her stayed in contact. So that picture was the only picture that I had ever saw of her. Couple months ago, she had a car accident and called me. It almost died in a car accident. And she called me, and I had time to talk, so we decided to video chat and have a talk. When I met her on video, I was like, wait a minute, you're not the same girl. She had long hair. It was black, curly and wavy. It was dark. And she totally looked different. She was still Caucasian, but she looked mixed. Like she was, like she was really light skinned. And so I was like, oh, I just said, you're very pretty. I didn't tell her anything at the time. I was like, you're very pretty. And I didn't, I was just like, oh, something's going on here. So I was thinking, okay, something has happened. So I started to look, as I started to talk to her, I started to realize I'm on a different timeline with her. And on this timeline, she met me before. She's telling me she already met me before the CE5 group. She said she always was following me as Mommy on YouTube and then found me on CE5. Okay, this is their side of the story. And so it's just, I can't let it go. I'm like, why is this girl looking different? Why is everything different? And I knew she had changed. So I'll go back and I try to find when we met, online, right? I go into the CE5 group to find our old conversations because I'm trying to get proof on like how this all went when we met, all it. And I go there and all our messages are gone. So I'm one of those people, I never delete my text messages. My phone would have to say like, your phone is full and you don't have no more room before I start deleting text messages. So I go all the way back to when she sent me those pictures. I got to see what this picture is going to look like if she looks like this. I go back to find that picture. I no longer have the picture anymore. That text is not there anymore, okay? So I try to tell her, we'll see. Did I tell her? She, of course, when I tell the person, they're not going to believe me, and probably wasn't smart to even mention it, but it was weird. And so, I did talk to another friend who is very conscious, and she definitely confirmed that, oh, yes, she said, you're starting to notice these timeline changes. And so I was like, okay, yeah, this she has changed. I don't know what to say, but she's different now. Like her everything about her was different, right? Next situation, I made a friend out of in my new hometown. I was looking to make spiritual friends, so I joined a group, found a couple of spiritual people. This one girl, we had been talking, we related, and we talked a lot on Messenger. We texted or whatever. And, we were planning to meet. She was married. She had kids, my son, so we were going to do like a family dinner together, right? So I had been all through her Facebook page, right? Okay, so she was Mexican, right? And she had, a previous marriage, and she was currently with a new person, a new husband. And she had, I think about 4 kids. They both have like kids. So she mentions that they're like the Brady Bunch, right? And so when she was talking to me, her husband was Mexican. Okay. So we talked about this, right? I also saw her with a Mexican man, her husband, on her Facebook page. And I saw all her kids, right? Who looked very Mexican. Okay. And so finally the day comes where we finally get our schedules together to have dinner together, right? And so we're planning to cook this meal, and they show up at my house. And when I was there at the car, I opened the door, and her husband comes out, and he's a black man. And I was like, what the heck? I didn't want to, make a big deal out of it or anything, but I know for sure I saw her husband was a different race, and I saw her children. And so I was like, okay, what's going on? How did I miss this? That's what I really was thinking. How did I miss this, right? And so after she left, I had to go look. While she was here, she started showing me pictures of her kids again. And she also had another son that was also black. I swear she had never seen this before. When we talked about our lives, she never mentioned it. And so I shifted timelines, and her husband changed, his frequency changed, or he changed, her husband changed based on, the frequency, whatever. So what happens is when you go into the timelines, the people tend to match up on your frequency. And sometimes things change. Sometimes people change. And so, okay. Now, these stories may seem unbelievable to you because you might be like, oh, you must have overlooked something, right? Yeah, and I know that you might think that, and that's quite okay. I'm going to tell you about my third situation that I actually have proof about, And so I know that I've been seeing these changes, and and I need to mention that I've always seen multiple timelines since I was young. And I remember living on multiple timelines. There's things that happened to me. And like one time I was at the zoo, right, as a little child. And I remember I had a little doll, and we were looking down at the flamingos, which was like a deep drop, it's flamingos water, and we were over something. And I remember 2 timelines. I remember holding my baby doll over it and dropping it and seeing it fall. And then I remember about to drop it and taking it back and keeping it. To this day, I can't tell you which timeline I really lived, but I remember both of them happening. So anyways, back to the current future. As you guys know, I recently had a little baby, and I had a crazy timeline shift, okay? So I'm going to sum this up really quick because I made an actually whole long video about it, about pregnancy and ayahuasca, because when I took ayahuasca, she actually told me this baby was coming. So I got pregnant, okay? So on August the 4th, I took a pregnancy test. The reason I know that, because it was our anniversary, or it was our wedding anniversary, and I wanted to surprise my husband with a positive test. Now, for 3 months, I was getting symptoms, and I missed the period. And for 3 months, me and my husband waited to take this test so we can just be in the safe zone. We had some issues before, and we didn't want to get our hopes up high until we were at the 3-month mark. So when I felt 3 months had passed from, missed periods and whatnot, it was August the 4th. I took a test. I made a video that day of the test because I wanted to see his reaction. So August the 4th, we know for sure now I'm pregnant. At this point, I order a Doppler, a heartbeat monitor to measure the baby's heartbeat. My belly's growing. I start feeling movements, kicks. My husband put his hand on my belly, and he also felt the kick. And I had this baby, okay? This baby, months later, I was getting, let's say, so from August the 4th, and from the day I had calculated, so I'm calculating 3 months before, I had to be pregnant at least 3 months before. This is what I'm thinking, right? So I'm calculating I'm about 6-7 months at this point, right? I'm definitely showing, and I feel movement and stuff. But, with most of my pregnancies, I always got, my stomach got really big at the end. It didn't really get bigger earlier. But it was big enough to be like, okay, yeah, I'm pregnant, right? And so we decided not to find out if it was a girl or a boy. I started to get antsy and like, let's go find out. I really want to buy girl clothes. Like, I knew ayahuasca told me it was a girl. I knew it was going to be a girl. But, my human mind wanted to, play the devil's advocate and try to figure this out for sure, And so we go to the maternity test, and like I'm telling them like I'm about 6, like I didn't know the exact date, right? And so they tell me when I'm thinking I'm about 6-7 months, they go inside my womb with the thing, and they said, "Are you sure you're that far along?" And I said, my date could be a little off, and I did admit that because I just calculated. I don't really know the exact date. And she said, but this baby looks 12 or 13 weeks or something. And I was like, what? She's like, it's a little nugget. And I'm like, little nugget? I'm looking at my husband like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, no way. I had morning sickness. I was checking the heartbeat. My husband felt it. And you're telling me that I'm not even at the phase to be feeling kicks yet? When I've been feeling it all this time. And so afterwards, I really stopped feeling the kicks. And now I started to look back. It was like, okay, so the moment she said that, it felt like all of a sudden everything felt like a dream. Like it started to hit me like, what's going on? And I began to see the 2 timelines I had been on, right? And I was like, okay, like what's going to happen, right? At this point, I don't know when this baby's going to come here, right? So I go 2 weeks later, the dates changed again, a few weeks. So I was like, okay, so at this point, we're thinking this baby's going to come in June, according to them. June comes, and I still didn't give birth. sorry, interrupted by my son. The baby came on around August the 4th, like the same day that I took the test a year before. So I had a positive test a year before, and the baby wasn't born. I was pregnant for a year, okay? And I know this sounds very crazy, right? And I was so confused. I knew that if I told anybody, they would think I was crazy. Like, because, this human mind can accept. I had to get to the point to accept that, I believe in impossible, miraculous things. And in order to see these things happen in our life, is we have to believe it and we have to accept it when it does. And I see also like the reason why we shifted the timelines, okay? Everything lines up perfectly as to why we needed to have that baby at that time of year, okay? So these are 3 crazy timeline shifts that's happening in my reality. You may not believe it, but I'm definitely convinced. And I definitely believe that, as we shift into this higher consciousness, this 5D consciousness, we are going to see more and more miraculous, unbelievable things. And that's the one thing, it's just like, if you don't open up to this, as a creator God on this journey, you won't see it. Because as a God, you're going to see what you believe. What you believe is what you want to experience at that moment. And so, with that being said, those are my crazy timeline shift experiences that I remember. So my message would be, be open to when you see things like that. And, look at it as, just look at it as confirmation that we are shifting our reality, that we're molding this to how we want to experience it. And, seeing someone change on their timeline, like my daughter recently had a major timeline shift, right? And, she's like totally different person. I mentioned in the other video, she had a dream. Okay, she completely shifted. Yeah, this is another. She completely shifted. She had a dream. And she, about 2 years ago, she told me she had a dream. She says, Mom, I had a dream I died. She told me, and my husband was sitting there too. And she said, somebody was driving a car and hit a deer. And I'm the one, I died. We got in a car accident and I died in that accident. And me and my husband was like, looked at each other. We talked about that. We're like, oh my God, that dream is a powerful message. She's in a situation where she's not making her decisions. Someone else is taking control and driving her life. And so a couple months ago, she came to visit me. And she's finally leaving a situation that she was in. She's taking back charge of her life, okay? She's going through a breakup. And she sits there and I say, see, this is why you had this dream. I'm trying, and I bring the dream back up and I say, the dream where you died, I told you, if you're not driving, and I told her, I said, you're not driving your life, you're gonna die. Because you have to be the one that take charge. You can't let anyone control it for you, drive your destiny. You need to make your decisions and be free. And she said to me, I don't remember telling you that dream. She said, I don't even remember having that dream. And she really has no memory. And I was like, she said, she thought maybe I'm misremembering it. And I was like, you know what? I would believe you. Because you know what? I could misremember things. You know what I'm saying? I could. But my husband, is he misremembering it? I remember right after the conversation, I went to my husband and I was just like, do you remember? And he said, yeah, I remember. We talked about it several times. In fact, I brought it up with her again in December. And when she came back early spring on her spring break, and she has no memory. But she's a new person now. She is totally like, I want to live my life. I want to travel. Like I see her, what happened is I have shifted timelines. So remember I talked about that video, timelines and collectives. I went to a timeline. In order for her to be on my timeline with me, I had to shift into a version, an aspect of her that was at a higher frequency. And a higher frequency person is a person that is controlling their own destiny, realizing that, they have to choose their self in this journey. They have to love themselves. They have to make themselves happy. They can't give away their whole life to make someone else happy. And so she's learning a major powerful lesson right now. But that timeline shifted because she doesn't even remember the dream. She doesn't even remember. And if it wasn't for my husband, people would think that I don't believe that I just, I'm misremembering. And so, yes, I, again, have a theory on what actually happened through that. And, not ready to talk about why yet. But this is what I mean. Like, these timeline shifts been happening. Has it been happening to you? Share with me if you notice any crazy timeline shifts. I know that someone here has experienced it, because right now we're all on this shift. You watching this? I'm in my collective where we're on this timeline. So let me know. I would love to hear about it. And thank you guys for watching. Sign up for my emails so I can keep up with you with updates, and have a great day.